Hello, welcome, man, and good afternoon to Rollin Illini here on WPGU 1071 and UPTV viewers. Of course, UPTV is helping us out this year. They're putting us on TV and YouTube. They're making us look great, however that is possible. But last week we had on Tatiana McFadden. She was on her for the entire hour. A fantastic hour with Tatiana. But I think to slow things down a little bit, we can kind of talk about the show a little bit and what it is. We have Illini Drive Monday through Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. This is not Illini Drive. This is Rollin Illini. Just a little bit different. One word is different, and we left the G off of Rollin intentionally. But basically what this show is, we talk about everything except for Josh Whitman and Levy Smith. It may not be stuff you may want to hear, but it is stuff that you might need to hear. So it's kind of important stuff. And what we talk about, and even today, kind of goes beyond sports. And we talk about the people behind the sports and all of that stuff. But to go back to last week, Tatiana McFadden, 19-time gold medalist, 19-time Paralympic medalist, not too shabby. What'd you guys think? Wasn't it great?
It was really cool to have her in the studio.
She signed it. She signed the wall.
Yeah, so it did actually happen. But just hearing her talk about the reason she started, Paralympic sports and how that journey has kind of developed from that time until now in her career, and what her plans for the future if, she gets a chance to compete in 2024, I believe.
Yeah, LA.
It was incredible just to hear about all of the stuff she's been through. And then aside from the sports, like we always say, we like to talk about the person. Hearing where she's traveled, her craziest food she ate and things like that. It was a very...
blowfish.
Yeah, the deadly blowfish. Got to cook it right. But that was a very interesting look at just one of the top athletes, obviously, to come from the University of Illinois.
Will?
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with James. It's a real special experience to have her. I know she's probably one of the most prominent names when it comes to the sport, so just having her in the studio was a real honor. And it was cool seeing just how much composure she's had. She's had so many life experiences. I know James asked her, where in the world would you like to go? They haven't been yet, and I feel like she really had to search her mind for a while just to find an answer to that question. But yeah, just overall, it was a real honor getting to meet Tatiana. I think she was a great guest, and I'm so glad that we were able just to have that experience together. And I hope we can build on that each week. And I think we have a lot of cool things going on this year. This is a real great show we've got. So I hope you guys out there listening tune in each week.
Definitely, we have some fun stuff in store every week. And I know just from my perspective, I've spoken with Tatiana a couple times, not too many times, but even today I was sitting at breakfast with my unusual meal of eggs and rice. It was disgusting. But anyways, I came at a bad time in the dining hall. But one of my friends was like, Ryan, I heard you interviewed a famous person. Like, I did? Really? Tatiana? Oh, I guess she is famous.
It's easy to forget that she's appeared, in McDonald's ads and countless other places.
Right, yeah.
Won a few gold medals along the way, just casually.
Exactly. She's okay. And she talked about her smoothie she made. I forgot to take notes on that one. Big mistake.
We're going to have to go back and make those smoothies.
Yeah, really. Bring them here. But I'm continued to be amazed by how much she works out and how determined she is. She will, as we mentioned last week, just kind of make a bolt at the end of a marathon to win. She does whatever she can to win. And I think a lot of people look up to her, and they may not even have disabilities, but they can look up to her as somebody they want to be, and they want to have 19 medals. and go to 6 Paralympics. That's okay. And then Tatiana also mentioned why she went back to Russia to compete in the Sochi 2014 games to meet her birth mom. I think that was a great story. I kind of had a feeling that was why she did it. I don't know. I don't think she would have gone to Russia otherwise to just to compete. But I feel like there was something else there, and that was it. And then we did not talk about this last week with her, but she also has her sister Hannah. I guess she came up in the conversation a little bit, but Hannah competes alongside Tatiana, not in the marathons, but in like the 200 meter and 400 meter and all of that. So I assume this year we're going to talk plenty about Tatiana. They're around, practicing around Champaign 100 miles a week, and they're going 20-some miles every morning, 8 a.m. They're either at the track, the Illinois track, or driving around country roads. Always exciting stuff.
Not many hills in this area.
No. But one nice thing is they have the Paralympic Training Center on campus here where they can hop on this machine and put their chair on this machine. It's kind of like a bike machine, and they can kind of simulate what it's like to go up a hill and down a hill. And Adam, their coach, can apply resistance so it's harder to push or something like that. And it's interesting, all of the technology they have down there. Sometime we'll have to go down there.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind hopping in the chair and trying. My arms aren't that big, so I don't know if I'd be able to keep up with the Paralympic athletes, but that would be an experience and certainly something to see. Obviously, it's not easy what they do, and just for any athlete in general, putting in that amount of work to get to the level they have is incredible. So, stay tuned.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I remember that Tatiana talked about too was just that grind when she was a student athlete. I think she a few times mentioned, I didn't really sleep very much, and just that schedule she had with basketball and track. And I think there are a lot of other athletes on campus who are going through that right now. I mean, with the basketball team, their season's approaching soon, and those guys and gals, they get up at the crack of dawn almost every morning for their practice, and that shows real dedication.
Yeah, 6:30 every morning for the Wiltshire basketball team. It's a great time to be out there. I know last semester we had on Kate Rougeau. She was the assistant coach at the time. I remember telling her, I think there were some times I went to practice and I forgot to brush my hair. I mean, not that it mattered, but I probably didn't look great. Thankfully I didn't stay for too long. But I can't imagine for Tatiana practicing every day, being exhausted right off the bat, then going to class, and then practicing again in the afternoon. They do that 6 times a week. And then you have the marathons, and there's homework too. Priorities.
Don't remind me about homework.
I got mine done.
I'm already behind, and we're 2 weeks into school right now.
Wow, good start, yeah.
Real studious.
James is already bragging about being done with his homework.
Hey, I'm turning over a new leaf my senior year.
Finally trying to establish some good study habits.
I'll check back in 6 weeks and tell you it hasn't worked.
Stay tuned for that one. But Tatiana also has done the para-Nordic skiing in Russia. Not too bad. She trained for that here on campus. They have a machine. I have not seen it, but I've heard a lot about it. A machine that simulates skiing with the arm motion. And here on campus they have an individual named Oksana Masters. She also does para-Nordic skiing, and she does the biathlon, so she'll be shooting guns and stuff like that. She's a really good person, and hopefully she can come on the show sometime. It's interesting to discuss the type of modifications they make to equipment, not just for para-athletes, but in terms of, if you want to do this sport, okay, we can probably put you on this machine and have you do this and that. It'll be close enough. Or if you want to push 26 miles around Champaign, you can even do that. I think wheelchair athletics here is quite an interesting component to the university, and I'm very thankful we have that right here. And of course, outside of track and basketball, they have connections in wheelchair tennis with Dylan Alcott. He's in Australia. They have somebody playing or coaching wheelchair rugby in Canada. That's not a sport I would like to play. Very action-packed.
Yeah, it looks pretty vicious. Me, no contact type of guy, so I'll pass on that one.
For listeners out there that haven't seen rugby, can you guys kind of explain how that looks then?
Yeah, so it's basically rugby and wheelchairs, and so it kind of looks like they're playing wheelchair basketball. They're on a court, but they're clashing in each other, trying to chase the ball or whatever, and they're ramming in their chair into somebody else, trying to take them out, and a lot of contact, and the rims kind of have like metal in them, and they're very solid, so I'm sure the impact for that is even more powerful than what you would get from a wheelchair basketball chair.
And you score by crossing like the line, right? It's not like a basket or anything like that, but you have to get to like a certain line and get there safely, which is pretty hard to do sometimes.
And these people are flipping out of their chairs and hitting the ground and all of that. And you see that in wheelchair basketball, but I think rugby is kind of contact taken to the next level.
As you would expect with that sport.
Yeah, exactly. So Tatiana last week talked about briefly what it means to have a disability. And so that's something we're going to talk about here in just a few moments, as we're going to take a break here on Rollin Illini on WPGU 1071 and UPTV. One thing you brought up, I feel like this could be answered a million different ways, but to you, what does it mean to have a disability?
I've never thought of myself as, being disabled. I've always thought myself as a Tatiana McFadden, a wheelchair racer, an Olympic athlete, a marathoner. I have an undergrad degree and going for my graduate degree, and I've never thought of myself, I never put the wheelchair first, I never put the disability first. I've always put my name first and what I've accomplished second. That's just the way I've always seen myself, and that's the way I hope other people see other people with a disability. You putting their name first, and whatever they've accomplished second is really important.
Welcome back here on Illini on WPGU 1071 and UPTV. It's Friday, September 8th. That was Tatiana McFadden from last week talking about what it means to her to have a disability. As I mentioned in my question, that can be answered a million different ways, and for Tatiana, she does not define herself as having a disability, and some weird sounds are going on behind it.
It sounds like there was some sort of a collision outside the studio. I don't know what's going on. Whoa, wow, something's being dumped maybe?
Like a garbage truck.
We're hearing a lot of loud sound, and I don't think you're hearing them out there as you listeners are hearing them, but just got to fill you in on why we're kind of jumping.
Yeah, you're not missing too much here. But anyways, if you're listening on WPGU, you probably can't see us, and you probably can't see that I'm actually in a wheelchair. What? I know, right? It surprised me too. So, like, for me, I am kind of like Tatiana in that I don't really define myself as having a disability, because it doesn't really slow me down. I just kind of think, okay, I use a chair to get around instead of my legs. It's actually quite nice, because the only muscles I use to get around campus is my wrist. I don't get exhausted. I do get exhausted going from, Nugent Hall, which is on the south side of campus, to the north side of campus, but I just get bored.
One thing I will say for the listeners out there is I've seen Ryan going from one place to another on campus, and man, he can travel pretty fast. He does zip around in that chair quite a bit. I've seen him fly down Green Street.
It's happened. There are quite the deals on Green Street.
He's really a speed demon.
It happens, yeah. So for me, I know people do ask about my disability because they can see it So if you want an answer, it is osteogenesis imperfecta. Kind of a long term. Basically, that means that if I get hit by a bus, I'll probably get hurt like you. Actually, that means
Yeah, I don't want that to happen to me or you or anybody.
I know, right? No, it actually means like my bones are not as strong as yours. So like if I get hit, there's a better chance that I'll get injured. Otherwise, not a huge deal, I don't think. I mean, I've broken 30, 40 bones. It's okay. Just move on. Next bone, please. But it doesn't slow me down. I think before coming to you, I hear it might have because I didn't know anybody else with a disability like mine who used a chair or anything. So I think maybe the mental aspect kind of slowed me down in that I was like, man, that'd be neat to jump on top of that or race around or whatever. But now I'm here and like, okay, there are dozens of people like me, and it's really not a big deal.
So would you say then that your outlook has kind of changed dramatically since coming to the university?
Yeah, I think so. Like when I got here, I moved into a dorm, Nugent Hall, and on the first floor they have a program called Beckwith Residential Support Services. So basically there are 24, 25 people with impairments. I say impairments. So we get help throughout the day with things. And I think from there it kind of changes your perspective and that you're like, okay, well, I guess I am quite fortunate. I can get around, and I don't think it really slows me down to be in a chair. It adds a nice perspective because I get to meet people like Tatiana and get to meet you guys and do this show and get to talk with Adam Blakeney, Tatiana's coach. And for Adam, he's got an interesting perspective too. I don't remember how long ago this was, but he was in an accident and got paralyzed. And not too long before his accident, he went to a driver's license facility to get his driver's license renewed. But when he was injured and he stayed in the hospital and stuff like that, he came back to that facility, and the lady at the front desk was the same lady he met a couple months prior, and she didn't recognize him because he was in a chair. And I remember him telling me that was a memorable experience, and that you kind of get taken back and like, okay, wait a minute, this is actually changing how people view me. So I think for me, around here, I don't notice any problems in how people view me. If anything, people help me more because if I drop something, they pick it up because they know I can't grab it, which is really nice. If like somebody else dropped a pen, say, and they could walk, they could probably just pick it up and nobody would help them. But there's also a component to disability. I find that as a weird word. Anyways, there's also a component that there's visible disabilities, which is what I have, as you can see it. And there's also invisible disabilities.
Yes, there are.
Yes, invisible. And they're not wearing a magic little curtain or anything. No, it's like if somebody has depression or anxiety or PTSD or something like that, so their life is kind of brought on by that, and they have to experience those.
Yeah, I've had some people in my family recently deal with some mental health battles and things like that, and it had really put in perspective for me that a lot of the time when I see them dealing with this and going about how they, just day-to-day life, it's not a disability in the sense that they can't do something. It's just you do things maybe rather differently than someone else.
Yeah.
But the end goal is always the same.
Right, right.
But it does give you added perspective when you see like, oh, not everyone has it as easy as you think. Exactly. But at the same time, like I said, just a different way of doing things. And as long as it gets done, there's no complaining or not much complaining to go around.
One thing I'd like to add to James' comment too, I think that's important to remember is that when it comes to mental illness, just as when it comes to disability, that doesn't define the person who they are. Someone with a mental illness isn't just a person with a mental illness. It's just that's something that they kind of have to deal with. That's another obstacle in their life, and that's something that but that at the same time, like they're still. I'm almost at a loss for words here, but I think it's important just to remember that we are all we're people going through the same crazy, hectic life together, you know?
Definitely. That was a great quote, Will. My gosh. I recently counted, and I think I know personally 12 people who have been through depression. And even last night, I was in the bathroom, quite a joyous experience.
I hope you got a good seat.
I know, right? I could hear through the door somebody was talking about suicidal ideals they had experienced, which is a lot to process for anybody, even the person who brings that up, and also the person to which they're talking. But anyways, that is a very complex topic to approach. But with disabilities, I find the word disability weird in that it talks about, or the connotation I think of it is that we can't do something, we are not able to do something. Like, what does that mean exactly? Like, am I not able to walk? Yeah, maybe, but actually I can. Or maybe, I know some people who can't walk, and I'm like, okay, maybe they can't walk, but so? Like, that's okay. You don't have to walk. I'd rather just sit in a chair than walk. It's a lot of work to walk.
So, Tatiana gave her definition. Obviously, you're not the voice of everyone. Oh, you're taking a picture right now. But obviously, you're not the voice of everyone that has a quote-unquote disability, but what is your take on how you kind of view your, set of tools you were given in life?
Yeah, I think it set me up for a different path than I expected. In that when I was, I don't know, probably around 10, even younger, I was a big Shaquille O'Neal fan. I wanted to be like Shaq. I wanted to be the next Shaq. And I have his autograph twice. So I wanted to be the next Shaq, and I wanted to be 7'1" and close to 300 pounds. Obviously, I'm not 7'1" and I'm not 300 pounds. But at a certain point, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to happen. Because I am probably half of Shaq's size. And I'm like just a quarter of his weight. Actually, even less than that. And plus, if I were to play basketball and I were to catch a rebound, if the ball were to land on my hands, I'd probably go through the floor. Because, the shots are powerful and the balls are heavy. So I'd probably break a bone just by catching that rebound. So I'm like, what would be a safe way to play the game? I'd still be involved. How about announcing? Ooh, announcing. We just sit on the sidelines and talk. I think I can do that.
And you don't sweat.
Yeah. Well, actually, I have sweated before. Huff Hole gets pretty hot.
We all have our moments where the blazer and the tie and everything, and it gets a little stiff.
Yeah. Every time I'm at Huff Hole, announcing is like, gosh, this is awful. But I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, despite the renovations they may or may not have done there, I haven't noticed much of a change in that facility. It still gets very hot.
Yes, it does.
As they say with all old buildings, it has character.
It has character. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so I kind of went the announcing route with the intention of still being involved. Obviously, my perspective on being involved now is different from last year's, because last year I was writing for the Daily Illini here. Now I'm not. Because I wanted to work closer with the Wilshire basketball team and closer with the Wilshire track team here. And I felt that journalism was not allowing me to do that. I think if we can get a lot more done if we work together, and that's kind of the route the IPC takes. We work with the athletes, kind of. We're covering them, and they're part of the IPC as a whole. So now I try to stay involved by announcing, and technically announcing is not journalism, so there. But anyways, that's kind of my story as as to how my disability and my chair has affected my perspective and what I wanted to do. But I think even for Adam Blake, he's like, without my chair, I wouldn't have gone to some Paralympics. And with Tatiana, I mean, I think she might have said the same thing. I mean, I'm sure she'd still be an athlete. I have no doubt about that.
Her arms are huge.
Yes.
Yeah, you can tell she works out just a little bit, or 6 days a week.
Yeah, I know. One of my friends saw a picture we had taken with her, and my friend is like, wow, Tatiana's muscular. I know, right? Like, quite impressive. But I really think she's a good person, and she kind of goes beyond just winning medals and numbers. So, yes, that's kind of my perspective on everything. I think it's different for everybody. For me, it's just kind of thinking about my perspective on things in terms of like, okay, well, is the situation really bad? Like, is it bad that I can't go to class on like blizzard-like conditions because I would literally get stuck in the Greg Hall parking lot? Actually, it's quite good because I would rather not go to class. Or, am I not feeling well enough for class, but I probably should go? Just stay back. It's all right. It's not a huge deal. But, again, it's different for everybody, and invisible disabilities are a completely different story. But in terms of the perspective that the person takes, I cannot necessarily speak for them. But in short, for a long segment, you have the news about the long snapper from USC. He is blind. Jake Olson. He is blind in both eyes, cannot see out of either eye, but he is a long snapper. So I think with that story, it's a neat story in that it shows that no matter what somebody is going through or what they have, visibly or invisibly, they can still achieve success per se like anybody else. So, as a whole, we're all the same. How about we end the show right there, guys? Can I go home now?
I think we got a little more to talk about, but that was an incredible moment. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure to check that out.
Yes,
you know, not many people get to snap at a USC game in college. I know I haven't. I would get crushed, but check it out.
As would I would be crushed.
And I'd like to thank you, Ryan, our host, for talking about your perspective, because I think that's very important for people to hear it.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I don't really talk about it much because it doesn't really matter to me. I mean, it's important, yes. I mean, like, I don't go around telling people, hey, I have a Y. I have a Y. Guess what, Will? I have a Y. And James, I have a Y.
Oh,
Did you know that?
Yeah, I don't think I ever guessed that.
No, I don't really do that because it doesn't really slow me down. But I know I did finally tell you guys last week when we were talking about sled hockey. And now you guys want me playing sled hockey. Where did this go? But I think I'll give it a shot. It's not like my parents will enjoy that, but
We'll have to send them some pictures.
Stay tuned.
I'm sure they're listening.
Yeah, keep an eye out. Those videos are coming soon, guys.
Rollin Illini is getting on the ice. Sliding Illini.
There we go. But yeah, I mean, I don't really talk about it, but I know a couple of days ago I was evaluated for my next wheelchair. It'll be a fancy chair. I'm planning on getting a Ferrari. No, I'm just kidding. It'll be expensive. Yeah, I know. It looks just like that. But I know the guy was asking about my disability and stuff and how it affects me, and I'm like, I was thinking to myself, I haven't really thought about this stuff in a while. Nice.
Are there any sick accessories we're going to see with your new chair?
No,
Beverage
Neon
holder.
lights.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Spinners on the wheels.
I have looked that up. No joke. I don't think so. I mean, with my current chair, I can elevate up and lean back and kick my feet up. I may have taken a few naps in my chair, and it is nice. I can't take naps in my bed because I'll be there all day. Well, not physically, I just won't want to get up. But yeah, I think that's a good way to stop it, is talking about naps. So we will be right back here on Rollin Illini, WPGU 1071, and UPTV.
Stay awake, listeners. Stay woke.
Yes. Welcome back into Rollin Illini here on WPGU 1071 on UPTV. Ryan Wilson here, joined by James Boyd and Will Gerard as producer. Jason Liggett is here, kind of.
Just not
in
here.
but he's around. So.
But because of him, you'll be able to see our beautiful mugs on UPTV.
Exactly, yeah.
He's a very talented individual.
That's why we put on a lot of makeup for this show on the radio.
As James is about to for his TV class soon, as we talked about before the show.
It's going to be an interesting experience for me. I've never contoured before, but, you know, there's always a first time for everything.
You're going to look good.
Future model. Besides modeling, we have some Illinois wheelchair basketball news. A couple of Illinois wheelchair basketball alums took home some world championship medals in Colombia. So on the men's side, Ryan Nicewinder, he was on Illinois last year, and Steve Serio, both alums now, were playing for the USA men's wheelchair basketball team in the World Championships in London. Took home their 7th straight gold medal. Ryan had a bunch of points, of course. Leading scorer, just like Steve. They are very similar players in that they can make some shots beyond the arc. And what I liked about the game of USA in the gold medal match against Canada was that it seemed like there's a lot of chemistry between all of the teammates on USA. They were all rotating, in wheelchair basketball, they don't have positions. You know, there's not a center, there's not a point guard or a small forward. They're all just on the court and they have different roles. But with USA's team, they were rotating. One player was down in the paint, the next minute he was up on the top of the key, ready to shoot. And so Ryan and Steve were kind of instrumental in coordinating the offense, and they did an excellent job with that. They actually had to come back and win the game. They were not winning most of the game, but they came back right at the end. And for the women's side, the USA women's team took home second in a loss to Canada. On that team, they have Caitlin Eaton. She is she's not an alum just yet, but her eligibility for wheelchair basketball here has expired. But she has turned into an assistant coach, and I'm sure we'll hear much more from her. Shelby Gruss, now an alum, was on the team, and Emily Oberst. She is an incoming player on the team. No Stephanie Wheeler, though. She was the head coach for USA. She took a break after Rio after winning a gold medal.
I think after you win gold medals, you kind of deserve a break, right?
Good way to go out,
Yeah.
yeah. So now their coach is Trooper Johnson. He's a Hall of Fame guy. But the women's team did not have a great game against Canada.
Bless you, James.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sneezing in the studio. Obviously not planned, but...
Allergic to all these bad scores.
No, actually, they're doing very well. I'd be allergic to my own basketball skills in here.
That could be. The women's team did not do great. Canada had doubled U.S.'s points in the first half, and U.S. could not score more than 20 points in the first half, which was not good, and they just were struggling as a whole. But from that, it'll be interesting to see how the Illinois wheelchair basketball teams this season adjust to no Ryan Nicewinder, or no Shelby Gruss, or Caitlin Eaton.
Both teams should look pretty young, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I think so. The men's team has only a couple players graduating after this year. The women's team has one, which is nice. The women's team from last year needed a lot of height, and I think they got that. Just a little bit of height, though, not a lot. For the men's team, it's tough to replace Ryan because he was their leader on offense. He wasn't necessarily their leading scorer, but he knew where to put the ball.
He definitely knew how to orchestrate the offense.
Yeah, yeah. But this year they have Spencer Heslop, a senior, and Michael Mitchell as their captains. Spencer, he'll do a great job, I believe. He basically Ryan. Spencer is taller, so he can get rebounds. He can throw some assists and knock down a three when he needs to.
So kind of just looking at the team, they're obviously very consistent at winning. You win 7 straight.
Yeah, that was U.S. Yeah.
By luck, but just kind of looking at the team now, how do you think they've been able to kind of sustain that success over time, and how do they carry that over into transitioning late? Yeah, another class out and more players coming in.
Oh, for USA?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think they've had a few players stick with them. They had a few Paralympians on the team, like Steve Zero. I think it's just kind of staying consistent and building a chemistry and finding the right match of players. With the women's team, they've had a lot of success for Team USA. I'll be interested in seeing how they adjusted no Stephanie Wheeler on Team USA.
Yeah, she was a staple with them, but
yeah,
things change, and sports, I guess, aren't everything. Like you said, when you win a gold medal in Rio in that fashion,
yeah,
well, what else is there to prove,
Not too shabby. But she's still at Illinois here. I think she still has some things to do here and build the team a little bit. I think the women's team this year at Illinois will have a similar season to last year, but they might do a little bit better, I believe. For the men's team, I think they will do just fine. I think they will go pretty far in the tournament. They brought in some tall guys, some very quick and versatile freshmen. One guy is really tall and he is quick, and he can run a fast break and knock down a three.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but I feel like last year one weakness with that team was they did lack a lot of size.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, definitely for the women's team. That kind of destroyed them, inside and out, literally. So they are wanting to look at that, I'm sure. And for the men's team, they lost some height from Mac Nong and Derek Hoot and Martinez Johnson. They were kind of the Bushy, their coach, called them the in-betweeners. They weren't too tall, but they weren't very short. They were tall. Taller than me, I think they're tall. So anybody's taller than me. But they're kind of having to replace them. But I think the chemistry on this year's team is great, and I think it might help the team as a whole progress toward their goal of winning a championship. And Will is a great photographer today.
Yeah, I'm just snapping these selfies. As ridiculous as it sounds, I have an assignment due late tonight, So as I'm not vain. I'm just trying to get a good grade, I got to work all my angles over here in the producer's chair. You can't see that on UPTV, thankfully, so you're just gonna have to hear about it.
You're missing out, guys.
It's all right. I have 2 good sides, and I think he's got both of them so far. So there you go. No modesty over here.
Man, I have never said that for a reason. We're going to be talking more Illinois wheelchair basketball. In the coming weeks, they just started up a session of ramps. So they go to Memorial Stadium on those really steep ramps at 6:30 in the morning and push up them and then down them. And then up them and down them really early in the morning to work up their endurance and their strength. Those ramps are really steep. I can't imagine doing that really early in the morning, but I think it makes a big difference. I think if I were to drive up those ramps, I'd probably just tip backwards. That's how steep they are. Have you guys ever seen those ramps?
I have, yes. Growing up in the area, I remember as a small child having trouble getting up that ramp because it's very steep and it's a bit of a hike. So I can only imagine that training in terms of training, like it's no small task. They probably build up quite a bit of speed going down. Actually, I wonder with how they're able to maneuver those corners. But I'm sure it's a daunting task to say the least.
And we can go by there sometime.
Oh yeah, that's another thing that I'd like for us to see in the near future.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean 6:30 is early, but luckily I live very close to the stadium, so I roll out of bed about 6:05. Not 6 is too early. 6:05 is more my thing. And then, if we get a chance to head over there, our buddy Kane was telling us about it, and it sounds like it's not for the weak or faint of heart. So,
No.
but then again, if you're doing something you like and that a lot of them love,
Mm-hmm.
it's no better time I guess than get it done early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess grab something to eat afterwards. But that is definitely something that I would like to see. Maybe not participate in because my arms aren't that strong again. But, we'll get out there.
Yeah, and you mentioned Kane. Now, if we have some returning listeners from last year, Kane was our producer. He sat where Will is right now. So Kane was moving all of the widgets and pressing the buttons and all of that stuff and running the brakes. But this year he decided to focus more on wheelchair basketball. That's what he wants to do. So he decided to focus on that, and he'll still make an appearance on the show.
Oh yeah, I would not rule out a Kane Walters return, even in the near future.
He's back.
Just the other day when we were all together going over our plans for the show, Kane was there with us talking. he finds us,
He can find you. He's kind of good. Yes.
Better watch what you say about Kane on air.
He's finding you, and he's listening, I'm sure. Nah, Kane's a good guy, and I'm very thankful he was alongside me in starting up this show. As I remember, we had the idea of doing the show, and we sat down together, and we're like, what should we call this thing? And I had some names, and then he was like, how about Rollin Illini? Oh, well, that's great. Why did I not think of this? Let's leave off the G, too. And we had like a 15-minute conversation on should we include the G in Rollin Illini, and in short, we left it out because it's not.
So credit goes to Kane for the name of the show. I did not know that.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
Exactly, yeah. G's are not that important. But if you were to ask Dave Snell, the announcer for the Bradley Braves, he would say, where are your G's? And I did bring this show up to him, and he's like, I usually like my G's, but this time around, I'll make an exception.
I'm glad we have his approval.
We're good. We're good to go.
We're big time now.
Yeah, I know, right?
And just another shout out to Kane. If you're out there listening, thanks for all the work you put in last year, and we definitely are aware of the work you put in on the basketball court. So it's cool to see you get the opportunity to pursue your dreams there on the court.
Yeah, he definitely reminds us of the work he puts in. He reminds me every time I see him because his hands are usually a little beat up, and he always makes fun of me for having cute hands, as he says, but I like my hands nice and cute, and like I said, he's working out most of the time for me and him because I will never touch a weight again in my life. There you go.
Good to know. Outside of wheelchair basketball, there is some major news on the Paralympic movement. We've got a new IPC president. His name is Andrew Parsons. He was the vice president of the International Paralympic Committee, and he was the president of the National Paralympic Committee of Brazil. So Andrew knows what he's talking about. He's been around. He's been doing this stuff for 20 years, and he's been on various committees for zones and regions. So he wants to bring up the ideas of regions in the world and developing countries and all of that. And he wants to look into more ways to make parasports more popular outside of Paralympic years. So, like talking about wheelchair basketball when it's not time for Team USA to win a medal, or something like that. Or talking about wheelchair tennis when it's not in LA in 2024. So just various things like that. And he also wants to look into the doping concept. Obviously, the IPC is a sports organization, so they want to make sure there are not any problems with doping. Obviously, that has been in the news.
Yeah, people aren't always as honest as they claim to be.
Exactly. So So there's a lot of talk about Russia and their inclusion in Pyeongchang 2018. That is next year's Paralympics. And also the Olympics, of course. So, yes, very good stuff for the Paralympic movement. I was sharing content about that last night at midnight. They were in Abu Dhabi, and they were broadcasting the nominations on a channel in Arabic, live on Paralympics.org. And I'm like, well, I checked this out, and this is great, man, but I can't understand it. You could hear Craig Spence. He's the head communications guy talking in English, but over him you would hear the announcer translating everything into Arabic. This is great. I really want to watch it. Is there a way to turn off the announcers? I never say that.
You're an announcer. We don't want people to turn off you, so you gotta take it as it comes.
But yeah, I thought it was great that they were broadcasting that, and I really enjoyed it. And I have shared a lot of content about Andrew Parsons and what he did when he was nominated. He slammed the table really hard. And I think on that note, that is this week's show.
We won't slam the table really hard.
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah, I'm not one for hitting inanimate objects.
Okay. But next week, we have a great show. Leon Dash will be joining us.
Pulitzer Prize winner.
Holla. You know, right?
They don't just give those out.
Yeah, actually they do. That'd be really nice. No, they don't. Leon Dash will be joining us. We're going to sit down in his office for a nice little interview about how to report on people with disabilities. For James Boyd, Will Gerard, I'm Ryan Wilson. Thanks for listening to Rollin Illini here on WPGU 107.1 and UPTV.